Well, did you know it's Women's History Month? And on the program today, we have two prominent figures who have been on the Oklahoma political landscape for some time. We'll be introducing you to them in a little bit. And the new sheriff in town attitude continues at the AG's office. This time the target, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. Flashpoint starts right now.
Now, moderator Kevin Ogle with Mike Turpen and Todd Lamb. This is Flashpoint.
Good morning and welcome to Flashpoint. We appreciate you making us part of your Sunday morning routine. Todd's back.
I'm back.
We're glad he's back. We appreciate the radio man from
Harold Wright. Harold did a great
Weatherford,
job.
who made it happen.
Yes, he did a great job. Hopefully not too well.
You did good, Harold, but Todd's
my
back.
access card still worked when I came in today, but Harold Wright, thank you. He has a radio station in Weatherford and Clinton and other places. He did a great job last week.
He's coming natural, and he has us on his show out there now and then, which we appreciate.
Well, he's not only just a radio guy, he was a prominent political figure.
Pro Tim in the State
fair.
House. Yeah, big time
for quite a
gig.
while.
Him and Mustafas.
Yep.
Go ahead.
All right. Now, we are going to talk about the Attorney General, Gittner Drummond.
Okay.
We've been talking about how he's been rattling some cages since he took office. This is another example of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority this time in the barrel, and our Adira Goins has the story.
Roll the tape.
The one-page letter sent by Attorney General Drummond Wednesday requests State Auditor Cindy Byrd look into improper transfers between the OTA and the Department of Transportation, improper contracting and purchasing practices, and inadequate internal financial controls. The request comes months after a district court found the OTA willfully violated the Open Meetings Act. Drummond saying in the letter, such a blatant disregard for openness and transparency suggests to me a willingness to engage in any manner of unlawful conduct. That lawsuit now before the Oklahoma Supreme Court. Secretary of Transportation Tim Gatz spoke with News 4 after Drummond's announcement.
The Turnpike Authority works hard to make sure that we operate in an open and transparent manner.
Amy Serrato with Pike Off OTA says she's been fighting for answers from the OTA for more than a year after she found out her home sits in line with a proposed turnpike. She says she's happy with the decision to audit the agency.
We're finally going to have some answers about the interesting financial transactions that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority has undergone over the last few decades.
Secretary Gatz vowing to work with the state auditor.
We are going to cooperate with any request that the state auditor might have of us.
Okay, just for full disclosure, we've had Secretary Gatz on and we've had Ms. Serrato on. Yep. So we've had both sides of this, but now this, especially some of the comments coming out from the AG, this sounds really serious here. The investigation, anyway.
It does. He's the former AG, so he can speak to why an AG might do this. But I think you led off so well, Kevin, and we've said this before in this show, this program, as it relates to Gittner Drummond. There's a new sheriff in town. And Gittner Drummond, he is, if there's one, if you can say what's one word to describe Attorney General Gittner Drummond thus far, I think that word would be transparency. Yeah. He is focused on transparency in government and how it relates to taxpayers' money, which I think the taxpayers appreciate. But Secretary Gatz is a man of integrity, and you heard what he said at the press conference there in his response to the AG's investigation. We're going to be as transparent as we can with the AG and with the auditor, Cindy Byrd.
All right, former Attorney General.
Yeah, well, the only thing I have personally told the brand new Attorney General, he's been about a month plus now, Gittner Drummond, as if he needs any personal advice from you or me or anybody. I mean, he just won the election. He's the Attorney General. He's the new sheriff in town. He's Bigfoot. But I've told him, and I've had a chance to talk to him a little bit, the best politics is just good government. The best politics is just good government. What we need out of you, Attorney General, and me and every other Attorney General is just good government. I think he believes right now that you just said it, openness in government and accountability. He's all about accountability. And guess what? He's asked Cindy Byrd to do the audits. Well, Cindy Byrd, who's kept up with her? I have a little bit, and she's all about treating every taxpayer nickel like a manhole cover.
And
It's a big deal to her.
And she seems fair, too.
I think so. And so
investigating.
now, how
different
serious is all
things.
this? We have no idea. I mean, it's an audit, and we'll see what it turns up and what's it all about.
Now, this
but
stems-
I would take it seriously.
This all stems from the new Turnpike plan, as we heard, which some of the people who are in the way, their property of the new Turnpike, said that they felt like the OTA was going around public hearings to get this done. They have had public hearings since those kind of allegations, but it has been a real fight.
And that was part of the ruling in the district court in Cleveland County regarding the Pike Off group, the residents and others that were going to be impacted by the new Turnpike that was going to run through part of Cleveland County and other parts of the metro area. But we had that issue highlighted on Flashpoint, and Channel 4 covered that extensively. But you're alluding to it, you stated it. This audit, this launching of the investigation probably spawned from that, particularly from the district court saying, no, Turnpike Authority, you've not been transparent. And keep in mind, for the longest time, the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority and the Oklahoma Department of Transportation were entirely separate and autonomous. In the last few years, a lot of that autonomy has gone away. Not all of it, so I don't need you to text me this morning, but there have been a lot of shared services and coming under one umbrella with the OTA and the DOT.
I've found the best way to work with an attorney general, and I do some work for major companies all over the country with attorney generals, and I tell them you need to go see the attorney general in a spirit of cooperation, not confrontation.
Good idea.
It is,
Yeah.
because ordinarily if you go in and see an attorney general anywhere in this country, including Oklahoma, I might suggest, with a spirit of confrontation as opposed to cooperation, you generally lose. I mean, they've got all the cards. They've got all the ability. They got the multi-county grand jury. They can subpoena anybody. They can keep it going as long as they want until they find something.
And I think Tim Gatz heard that advice or knew that advice because we saw
I heard what he
the
said.
spirit of Secretary Gatz in his response.
No,
he wants to be
thought-
transparent and wants to communicate and wants to have an open policy with the Attorney General and with the auditor. So stay tuned, right?
Correct.
Stay tuned
Yeah,
on this
absolutely.
story.
It seemed to be a measured response on his part. I agree with that.
All
Thank
right,
you.
we will continue to follow it on News 4 and here on Flashpoint as well. When we come back, I talked about it off the top, Women's History Month, and we have two ladies who are very prominent on the Oklahoma political landscape. We'll be right back here on the big program.
And everybody here has a daughter.
The best is coming up.
The Forewarned Storm Team, looking out for you. KFOR.com. More local news, more local weather. On the field, on the court, in the classroom. Nominate a high school student who excels in sports as well as with the books. Winners will be highlighted on the screen as the Homeland Scholar Athlete of the Week. Go to KFOR.com/athlete to nominate. Then watch Oklahoma's News 4 Thursdays at 10 to see your favorite Homeland Scholar Athlete of the Week.
Hi, little ducky. I absolutely love being a new mom. It's a dream come true. Sleep, I miss consecutive sleep, but I'm used to the early hours, and that's when Jenny gets up. Bittersweet to be back. I hate to leave Jenny, but I'm happy to see my team on the mornings. And I love now hearing her try to talk. I think she's going to be a big talker like her mama.
Welcome back, Emily, to News 4 in the morning. Weekdays starting at 4 a.m.
And we are back on Flashpoint, and as promised, we have two prominent ladies here involved in our state government. They're returned guests, but what they do is so important, we wanted to have them back here on Women's History Month. We have Senator Floyd is here from Oklahoma City.
Yes.
And Secretary Susan Winchester. And we're going to get a thumbnail on what both of these ladies are doing right now. And let's start with you, Susan.
Cabinet Secretary of Licensing and Regulation. I've said several times, I thought the governor and I were somewhat on a friendly basis, and I found out he gave me 30 agencies, which oversee an additional 50 boards or commissions.
Is that the act of a friend?
That's the act of a friend. And the worst part of this friendship is that I have everyone from the doctors to the plumbers to the elevator inspectors, to the accountants, and everyone in between.
Oh,
It's
wow.
been very, very
The
interesting.
working men and women.
The working men and women of
I
Oklahoma.
love
Some
it.
of the most dedicated people I have met.
No question. no
Really,
question.
really and truly care about state government.
That's
How many
great.
women are in politics right now in Oklahoma? The House and the Senate. I think you guys know.
10 in the Senate, 20 in the House.
Okay.
But I want to show this.
Go ahead.
2 in the Senate in leadership, 3 in the House. Not
Okay.
acceptable.
Yeah, not acceptable.
She said not acceptable.
Oh my gosh. Take and run
Pull
with
the
it.
pin out of the grenade fast.
I mean,
Senator Floyd,
You're years in politics.
you're one of those who
She
is
is.
a leader in the Senate. Tell us about what you're doing now.
So we are going through bills. We are going through deadline weeks. We are dealing with a lot of interesting issues.
Yes, you are. We've been covering them.
I have 8 members, and 5 of us are women. First time in state history you've had a majority of women
In the minority. The majority
either
in the
way,
minority,
either
yeah.
way.
Wow.
in caucus. So pretty pleased with that. I have a great caucus. They are hardworking. We have to do triple the work as the majority, but we have good working relationship with the majority.
Well, I know we have shown you down on the green carpet a few times, speaking your mind on the Senate floor, and we'll talk
Every
about
once in a while.
and we'll talk more about that. But you two know each other. Before the show, they were up on the set where we have the guests, and they were talking away about different things happening right now. Talk about the relationship.
Republican, Democrat leaders in this state, but you're good friends.
We
Go
are
ahead.
good friends.
We are.
I don't know if we served in the House. I think you came in right after I left. But one of the people I admire the most, I mean, when she stands up to talk, she knows she's done her homework. She knows what's going on. She knows how to present what the issues are, ask the right questions. I admire you. Once you've been in the legislature, you are absolutely addicted to following everything that happens. I watch session almost every day, and you are stellar when you. stand
Oh, how
up.
nice.
That's very kind.
And what's your relationship with Susan over the years?
So the first time
You
I
gotta say
met,
something nice.
the first time I met her, I was in the House. I was in the House for 2 years before I went to the Senate, and Susan hadn't been out very long. But I knew her history. I knew she was the first elected Speaker Pro Tem of the House woman in 2005, I think it was, which just floored me. First of all, I couldn't believe that there hadn't been women before then. But then when I met you, it was just, I was kind of intimidated. I just have to say I was kind of intimidated.
Yeah.
But I've watched her career, I've watched her work, and the job you're doing now, the secretary job is for licensing and regulation. I am on a lot of administrative committees, and Susan shows up at everything. Anything that has to do with licensing, the professions, she's just all over the place, and it's great because I know you're engaged, and I know that you care about the people of Oklahoma. So it's been a great working relationship.
Good.
That doesn't
good. That's
surprise me at
wonderful.
all, Senator. And if I can brag on both of our guests, I'm thrilled they're both here. In 2017, I was lieutenant governor, and I needed a chief of staff.
Right.
And so I searched just under 4 million Oklahomans to look for the best. I wasn't looking for the best female to be chief of staff. I wanted the best Oklahoman to be chief of staff, and it was Susan Winchester. I want to publicly thank you. I hope I'm not hurting you with any constituencies this morning. But thank you for your service to Oklahoma as chief of staff to the lieutenant governor's office years ago. I've respected you and your husband, the former Chief Justice of the Oklahoma Supreme Court, but also you, Senator. We served together when I was president of the Senate, and you were in the state Senate. And different political philosophies, we've talked about on Flashpoint before, but I respect you for your preparation, what you bring to the table, the integrity in which you carry yourself, and how you lead a minority caucus. Having served in the minority, that's challenging, and you do it very well.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Well, you can tell that we have a couple of guests here that are very respected, not only by each other, but by the people
Where's the
around
Flash?
the table. Yeah, we'll get to
Hey,
it.
you've been in private practice, you've been an assistant attorney general, you've been an administrative law judge, you've done so many things, and OSU undergrad, OU law school. What you're not done, you got miles to go, but what do you look back and feel good about having accomplished so far? As a woman in politics or just as a human being in politics?
Well, the OSU-OU combination was pretty good idea.
Yeah, okay.
In retrospect, if you're going to run for office, it's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
that's good advice.
Actually, I think legislatively, about 6 years ago, I was asked to look into sexual assault in the state of Oklahoma and what a huge issue it was, and I had no idea, like so many Oklahomans. And so I ran a bill to put together a task force to bring everybody to the table to discuss it. Law enforcement, healthcare, social services, the Office of the Attorney General, and there were some advocates in town, and they got crosswise with the House chair who had the bill. And so it was stalling out. So I went to Governor Fallon and I asked her to, if she'd do a task force. And she did not like task force. She was not doing task force. But I explained the issue and she just came on 100%, and it wouldn't have ever happened without her. But since then, the task force has just worked so diligently and come up with so many things that needed to be done to address sexual assault in our state. Probably the biggest thing it's accomplished was the sexual assault forensic evidence, and that's what the SAFE acronym is, the SAFE Task Force. We did a statewide audit of untested rape kits in the state of Oklahoma. Yeah. And it took a couple of years, but we had, and this is always hard for me to say, over 7,000 untested kids.
That's an unbelievable number. It's just a matter of, was it just a matter of not having the people to do it, or what?
There were so many factors.
Okay.
And the task force had everybody at the table. I think at one point we had 25 people, which is, in the first few meetings was tough because everybody thought everybody else, you didn't do this and you should have done that.
Finger pointing.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It was a little bit, but everybody wanted to make a difference, and so that ended up winning the day. But
good.
The kids are getting tested. Funding, we've gotten a lot of federal funding and grant money. The Attorney General has been incredibly supportive. General Hunter was also, and so I think we're making a difference. I think the task force, and it's going to last long after I leave. So
that's good. That's good. Yeah. Good work on that. And when we come back, we're going to ask Susan. Her party's in power, and when the party's in power, there's always some people that argue in their own party than more with the other side, and we're going to talk about that coming up next on Flashpoint.
They're first responders who jump into action. They're community influencers with a heart for helping. News 4 and Quail Creek Bank are proud to recognize these remarkable Oklahomans with our Proud to Serve Award. Submit a nomination. Go to KFOR.com/proud to serve. Noble McIntyre Law Chopper 4. Your eyes in the sky with pilot reporter Mason Dunn.
We noticed flames and some fire. We were able to call the fire department when we saw it start. We caught people running from their homes.
Noble McIntyre Law Chopper 4. Your eyes in the sky. When you're covering an area as big as central Oklahoma, you need air power. With pilot reporter Mason Dunn. Noble McIntyre Law Chopper 4. Looking out for you.
Susan Winchester, Secretary of, would it be called licensure?
Licensing and regulation.
Yes. Rolls right off the tongue.
Right, yeah, I had to work on it for a while.
And Minority Senate Leader Floyd from Oklahoma City. Right. We were talking before the break about Republicans have a supermajority, and sometimes I know Mike told me and Todd's told me that sometimes you have more battles in party fighting than you do with the other side. And this was a particularly passionate one. Our Nick Camper was there when they were discussing a bill to ban corporal punishment of kids with disabilities in school in Oklahoma. Take a look.
It is plain that the will of the Lord wants us to use God's word and God's counsel as we make laws for the state.
Many Republicans voicing their support for spankings and paddlings on students with disabilities, some citing scripture.
If you will not use the rod on a disobedient child, you do not love that child. That's what the book said.
Others arguing for corporal punishment to keep students on the right life track.
If you don't balance out nurturing and discipline, you will have many people in prison.
Democrat Forrest Bennett reacting to Olson and Randleman on Twitter, saying in part, "It's 2023 outside, it's 1880 in here." Right now, districts can allow for corporal punishment, and for those that do, parents would need to sign off. Republican John Talley is the author and says spankings and paddlings are not necessary for students with disabilities.
Accountability and grace go hand in hand.
House Democrat leader Cindy Munson sharing personal stories to argue against physical punishment.
My mother used chopsticks to slap my back so that I would listen to her. She'd pull my hair so I would listen to her.
Munson says schools were a safe place for her, and they also need to be a safe place for students with disabilities.
I knew that was where I could be my full self. I could make mistakes. I could say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, but my teachers would always have my back.
All right, Susan, you're our Republican guest, and Todd, you're our Republican voice here as well. A Republican lawmaker, as we saw, ran this bill to ban that kind of discipline in schools for kids with disabilities. It got the majority of votes, but not the threshold of 51 because not enough members were present to give it that threshold. It may come up again, and they may vote on it again. But that's the kind of infighting I'm talking about. When you have a supermajority in your party, but not everybody in the party agrees.
I've talked to the speaker several times about how he handles his majority. It's the largest in history, I think. Maybe not, but if not, it's close.
It's a big one.
It's 84, 82, 84
It's among the
members.
largest in history.
Yeah, it's among the largest.
He's the longest running speaker, too. Go ahead.
Right, and it's like, how do you keep all the cats in the wheelbarrow or the frogs in the wheelbarrow, whatever they are? And it's a challenge. That many people, you're going to have that many different opinions, but there are some things that I think we all ought to be going the same direction regardless of party. And back to the clip that you just played, I don't believe in corporal punishment for children, so I would have been one of those that would have been very much in favor of that bill.
Of that ban. Now, again, it didn't get, because there weren't enough members there, possibly, for it to get to the 51 vote threshold. But it shows, well, what was your thought when you saw that battle? And in fact, the co-author of the bill, who's a Republican, stood up and apologized to the author, saying, I thought this would be an easy one to pass through, but apparently some of my colleagues didn't think so.
Well, full disclosure, I'm the Senate author on that bill. And I never thought it was going to be easy on the House side. But I thought that Representative Talley did a great job. He's sincere about wanting to do this.
And he's a Republican from Stillwater, is that right?
Yes. Republican from Stillwater, former FCA area representative, worked for Fellowship of Christian Athletes for years.
And we've been to some meetings and some discussions about this very issue, about the corporal punishment for children with disabilities. Not children, children with disabilities. And from what I watched on the House, that seemed to be lost on them. It really did, but it is an important issue. It wasn't going to be an easy lift, but I thought they would vote for it. I thought they would see the reason, they would understand the data and the research behind it, and they'd be able to get there. Now, I don't know if he captured the bill, which means that he gets another shot at it. I imagine he did because it was a pretty close vote, and there were members that were gone.
Yeah.
But,
trying to get to that 51 vote threshold.
It's a great example of a Democrat working with Republican, Democrat in the Senate, working with Republican in the House. This is how government's supposed to work. This should not be a partisan issue, and you took a very specific stance on it. Mike, I know where you are on it without even asking you, but I was concerned about some of the rhetoric I heard that was played in that video clip. And by the way, what superintendent, what principal would want to give corporal punishment, administer corporal punishment to a student with disability?
But this caveat, though, it's parental consent.
Understand, but
still,
yes,
come on, you guys.
Yes.
What about God's grace and Jesus' love? All my Christian friends out there, what about God's grace and Jesus' love? I'm talking about Christian friends at the state capitol in both parties. Real quickly, you guys, you're both two of the best leaders in the whole state right now. Not just women leaders, two of the best leaders in the whole state. I mean that sincerely, like you said earlier. You guys know how to build coalitions. You work together. You're about right and wrong, not right and left. What would you talk to young women coming into politics about?
What's your advice to them?
Unfortunately, we only have about 15 seconds for each.
What? Go ahead.
Susan, go ahead.
First of all, I'd say try it. I mean, don't believe that you can't. You can do absolutely anything you believe you can accomplish. You'll get there. You'll do a great job.
Yeah,
Be engaged.
I absolutely agree. And the thing I tell my caucus as a minority is you've got two things. You've got relationships and you've got your reputation. And you'll always have that whether you're in the majority or the minority. And you can get a lot done with that.
Senator K. Floyd.
And reputation.
Thank you both.
Secretary Susan Winchester, we appreciate you coming back to the program. And you'll probably be back not too long down the road, too, on other issues.
The best women leaders in the state, right, Todd?
We'll be back on
No doubt.
WKYT-TV, Channel 4 in Oklahoma City.
from Oklahoma's first television station.
Oklahoma's News 4, looking out for you. Then, now, forever.
Warm and fuzzy time,
Avid
Todd.
flash pointers. This is Lisa and Sam Hawk. Sam works for the Western District Federal Court of Oklahoma. Stopped me downtown Oklahoma City a couple of weeks ago. They went back to Devin Skillion days, Kevin.
Oh, they're long timers.
So they know all about Mike, all about you, all about me.
30
Thanks
years
for
ago.
watching, Hawk family.
Thank you very much.
That's Mike Turpen and Russell Westbrook about a month ago in a hotel in D.C., the St. Regis. And Russell Westbrook told Mike Turpen, I want to come back to Oklahoma City and retire my jersey. It's the best place I ever played. I love Oklahoma City, and so does my family. Russell Westbrook.
We'd love him to come back.
Russell
and do
the
that.
Lion-Hearted.
That's right. We'll see you next week on the program.